our crews have been doing this here in Florida for a long time, and so they know the ins and outs of the humidity and the heat and the afternoon thunderstorms and how to deal with all of those things that most people, when they come from out of town, they're just like, oh my God, what, whereas our crews are just like, yeah, this is a Tuesday, this is
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah.
I
Completely.
legitimately think that if you work in production here in Florida, you are a semi-professional weatherman.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
we just we look at the app, we kind of scroll a little bit, we look at all the data. We'll be okay tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or on the inverse, we need to bump our crew call a little bit. We're gonna get rained out in the afternoon, and
Yeah.
and sometimes clients are like, "Really?" And we're like, "I'm telling you right now, like
Well,
we
I
need
mean,
we need to
there's-
believe this."
it's always interesting when people come down from up north and they'll see like the 14-day forecast and say, oh my God, it's going to rain every day. And it's like, well, yes, maybe, but like it's not a washout. You just got to time it. You have to figure that out. And you know that's part of what you get when you hire a Florida crew is that knowledge of how to deal with the weather. Whether it be, wintertime weather has its challenges too, but, our summers are interesting. But the best thing about our crews is just that institutional knowledge of what it's like to be filming in Florida.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I was looking through your LinkedIn, and I saw that you love social media and you love leveraging it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes and no. Yeah.
deep breath.
Okay.
How do you use social media right now? Like, what's your strategy to leverage social media for Florida's benefit?
Well, social media has its pros and cons. There's no doubt about it. And there are plenty of times when I get very frustrated with the algorithms. I mean, I don't want to sound like the old guy sitting on my porch, but I miss the days of early social media where if you put something out, your followers were actually going to see it, and
They say it's less than 10% of your followers
yeah,
that actually
it's
see your
tough. I
content.
mean, and look, I hate the fact that you have to pay. Well, it's pay to play. I mean, basically, if you want more than your usual 5-10% to actually see, you definitely have to pay. However, promoting posts on Facebook and Instagram are still far, far cheaper than the traditional ways of marketing.
Yep.
And so, again, we use social media right now. It's important to make sure that, we use the term global Hollywood. When we say Hollywood, we don't mean Hollywood, California. We mean global people that work in our industry. The one way to do it is to make sure that you're putting stories in their feeds. And so we do, I would say 75-80% of our paid social media marketing is outside the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Because it's brand recognition in terms of the state. For a variety of reasons, there are questions about whether or not Florida is interested in the screen production industry right now. Mm-hmm. And so we obviously believe, yes, we are, because we're trying. But it's important to make sure that people all over the country that work in our industry see Florida, understand Florida, know Florida, want to come to Florida. And so we do a lot of our marketing pushing out into those feeds because, you only have so much money, and we don't necessarily need to market the state of Florida to those of us living here who
Right.
kind of know it. And so we're making sure, because we do believe wholeheartedly, out of sight, out of mind. And if people are in our industry are thumbing through their feeds and don't see anything about stuff going on in Florida, that they're going to forget about it. And
Yeah.
so we're trying to forcefully put it in front of them and make sure that they remember that we're still here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, you're doing it right. Because I see the stuff all the time on the feed, and it reminds me how active you guys are and what else is happening. Like you will post something from Miami-Dade County or Orange County or the Key West, or just whatever different zone within the state. And, we are so immersed in the Tampa Bay region. This is where we're located, right? So that would make sense. With us being in our bubble, where we need to be reminded even like, oh, that movie or that actor or actress just did something in Pensacola. That's cool. Hadn't heard about that. Or on the inverse, you go, oh my God, I did hear about that 6 months ago.
Yep.
I now see that the project's completed. It's going through a film festival run or a distributor, or it got sold, or now it's going to make it to XYZ platform. There's actually been projects that I have ended up watching because you posted that, oh, this made it to Hulu and debuted last week.
Yep.
And I go, oh,
Yeah.
that's right. I did hear about that 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And
I always tell people that part of my job from a marketing perspective for the organization is to tell our industry story. And nobody wants to hear me preaching analytics and whatever as a story. That's not the story. The story is our members. Our members are the industry. And the more we're talking about, whether it's film festivals, whether it's about events, whether it's about independent films, whether it's about a project that people are working on, that's the industry. Those are the stories that resonate. And so it's a good portion of my job is collating information and making sure I have what's going on in the different regions, because you're right, Florida is a huge state. And a lot of times people do live in their silos. It's natural.
Yep.
And so we need to remind the people in Miami-Dade County what's going on in Pinellas County. And then we need to remind the Pinellas County people what's going on in Duval County, and remind the Duval County people what's going on in Orange County. I mean, like, that's part of the community that we try and build within the organization. Otherwise, you can just hang out with the people in your area and learn what's going on in your area, and that's fine too, but that's not giving people a true sense of what is going on in the state of Florida. Yeah.
I know a lot of what we're talking about is bringing people into Florida. But what are your thoughts? This might be an ignorant question. I really don't know. What are your thoughts about connecting local businesses with filmmakers or videographers? The small business,
It's huge. It's huge, hugely important, because, one of our colleagues is famous for saying you must be present to win, and it has a lot of different meanings. And yeah, I am constantly trying to connect local businesses with local production companies, whether the businesses probably aren't members of our organization because they don't work in our industry. But a lot of times when they're trying to figure out, I need to hire people to make something for me. I need some production. I need whatever. They don't even know what it is they need. They just they know they need something. A lot of times they will call us and say, like, this is what I'm looking for. Do you make any recommendations? And I make no bones about it. When people call me, the first thing I do is go to our membership list. I mean, that's one of the big differences between us and a local film commission, whereas a local film commission is, in most cases, taxpayer dollars funding them. And so they can't play favorites. It's illegal. And so when somebody calls them up and says, Mr. and Mrs. Film Commissioner, I need a company to do some work, who do you recommend? Well, they say, well, you should go look at our production database, and that has a list of all of the companies that work in our industry. Okay, fine. That's kind of overwhelming to a company. Yep. They call me. I'm not bound by any of that because we're funded entirely by our members. And what better way to make sure that our members are taken care of than trying to find them jobs? Mm-hmm. And so when somebody calls up and says, hey, I'm in, Pinellas County and I'm looking for a whatever, first thing I do is start looking at our membership database, and I'll say, give me your email address. By the end of the day, I'll send you a list of some companies you should reach out to. And I start at the top of our list, which frankly is the people that pay the most money in their membership, and I go to the bottom of the list. So when I send it out, if there's 10 companies, the top couple are going to be all of our corporate members in varying levels, and then you get to some of the individuals that do the work. And so I absolutely feel an obligation to try and connect companies to our members that do the work, because again, like, I'm not stupid. If we don't get enough members, I don't have a job.
Yeah.
And if our members don't have enough work, the first thing they're going to dump out of is a membership to a trade association. Like, they're certainly not going to dump out of buying a new camera that can do them work, or hiring a new employee for something. That's what they got to do, their business. It's the membership stuff that does go by the wayside sometimes. And so it's in my best interest to make sure that we're trying to funnel as much as we can through those companies.
Kevin and I were talking about something recently, and this is a pretty big question. I'm not sure what your answer is going to be on volume walls. You touched on it for a moment, of production companies outside of Florida attempting to recreate Florida.
Yeah.
There's some big movies, I'm sure Kevin could list a handful of them, that have recreated Florida or fake cities of Florida. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you feel that that affects the production companies here?
I mean, it drives me crazy when first, it drives me crazy anytime we lose business as a state, because I know, and I can recite the stats. Just in major feature film and television series over the last 5+ years, we've lost more than 100 major feature film and television series that would have spent more than $2 billion here in the state,